This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome to a special bonus episode of the Japan on Film podcast. I am your host, Perry Constantine, and today I am joined by a filmmaker here in Japan, and that is Katie Wilson. How are you doing today?
I'm all right, man. Thank you for having me.
I am really excited to talk with you about your project. It doesn't exist. You posted about this on there's a Japanese movies subreddit, and that's where I found you posting about this. And just very intrigued by your story when I went to check out your Kickstarter and watch the trailer. And we're going to get into all of this. But before we jump too much into the movie, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what's your story, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah. So I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. I'm always wearing Brooklyn, New York gear. Then, from there, we moved to, Washington, D.C., went to school in Virginia, graduated with marketing degree. Then after school, tried to get a job, couldn't really find a job, got a film job, got fired from that film job, looked for other jobs. No one would hire me, applied to different countries, one country in West Africa, one country, Sweden and Japan. Japan hired me first. And so I said, looks like I'm going to Japan now. So I packed up whatever money I had from working at my movie theater job, ripping tickets, which was like $1,600. Took $1,000 pay for the plane ticket, took $600. Then I came to Japan, struggled for a little bit at first until I was able to, get on my feet. Of course, it was ramen for a while. And I took that and started to save up money, working as an English teacher, once at Nova, then 5 years at a company called World Family, which is a very good company. I couldn't say the same about Nova, but World Family is amazing. And then decide, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. So I recently quit on my job, took my savings, filmed some stuff with some filmmaker friends of mine who I've met and on film sets here, did a lot of stuff for free to get to know people, called in a lot of favors, made something, put it out there. It ended up getting over 66,000 views on a YouTube channel with like 0 subscribers. A lot of people wanted to see the feature film. I originally wanted to just be a trailer editor, but and I got some trailer editing jobs, which is great. So I started doing that, but people really wanted to see this into a actual film itself. So then I started the Kickstarter, and here I am.
Very cool. Yeah, really interesting story. I want to go back and talk a little bit about some of the stuff you mentioned there. So you said you had applied for jobs in West Africa and Sweden as well. Were those also English teaching jobs or other types of work?
Other types of work. I went to school for marketing. So it was in Sweden, it was a marketing position. And in West Africa, I forgot what I applied for there. It was just so long ago at this point,
Yeah. Well, like you, I had also, my first time actually coming here was with Nova. I didn't actually work for them though, because awesome. that was back in 2007, back when the bottom fell out of the company.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and people were, and the Nova apartments, they weren't paying the rent for the teachers, even though they were still taking the rent out of the salaries. And I had only had, I didn't have a whole lot of cash on me as well, just kind of like your situation. But so I basically just fucked off and went back to the States, and then I came back a year later with the JET program, and I've been here pretty much ever since after transitioning from JET into regular teaching work. World Family, though, I've never heard of that company, so that's interesting that there's it's nice to know that there are still a few good companies in the English language conversation
100%.
scene, because there's so much grift and scam operations, and and it's the bottom. It seems like there's no bottom with that industry sometimes, unfortunately.
100%. I've heard so much. Luckily, I haven't really been someone who got hit with one of those severely. I mean, Nova, they kind of, did me a little dirty. They wanted me to apply back for the position after I finished my contract. I did, and they said, "Oh, we won't be accepting you." I was just like, "Why'd you have
Jesus
to apply?
Christ, yeah,
This is so ridiculous." So, I got my hopes up and then took the floor out from me. But there are still some. I've heard of a lot of people having a lot of troubles, but I got really lucky with World Family's great management staff, and they kind of put the teacher. They listen to the teacher first before they listen to anybody else. So that's different, and loved them.
Awesome. So you're in Tokyo now, right? Were you always in Tokyo, or have you moved around a little bit in your time here in Japan?
I was in Ofuna first. Ofuna, south next to Chigasaki Beach and things like that, and where the big Buddha statue is. I saw that every day, and it was actually, I kind of want to go back there. I loved it so much. It was so peaceful. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I
get you. That's one of the reasons why I stay in Kagoshima. When I first came out here, my goal was to eventually get to like Tokyo or Osaka. But after being here for a few years, I'm like, you know what? I really like how it's just a little bit more laid back out here as opposed to the more bustling big city centers. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your history too. So you'd mentioned in your Kickstarter that, and you just told us as well, you came to Japan 6 years ago. After the plane tickets, you had basically $600. And also in your Kickstarter, you said that you had a dream to be a filmmaker. But so did you have an interest in the Japanese film industry or Japanese movies of some kind? And is that kind of why you wanted to become a filmmaker in Japan, as opposed to like going back to America or something like that? Or was it just, I'm in Japan, so I might as well try it here?
Yeah, it was more of the, I'm in Japan, I'll try it here. I'm not gonna lie. When I was first finding jobs, I applied to 3 very different countries, right? So it's like anywhere I was going to end up, I always wanted to do film. So I'm glad I'm in Japan for it though, because I think Japan it has its own shine. It's very, I think of it as very cool. It's so cool. Like, and I think of the 90s Yakuza films and things like that, and it's just like and I think of it as being really, really cool. And if I went anywhere else, I don't think I would have the same kind of inspiration though as I do in Japan.
Right. Yeah. Now you'd also said that you'd wanted to be a trailer editor at first, and and then the trailer got all this great response, and then so you decided to make it into an actual movie. So, but most people I've talked to about being interested in film, it's usually they want to be they want to be a director, they want to be a writer, they want to be an editor in general. But this is the first time I've heard someone say they specifically wanted to be a trailer editor. So why was what was kind of your thinking about and your motivation to specifically go into trailer editing?
Trailers are amazing. They're so cool. I subscribe to every single company just to watch their trailers. I often see the trailers being better than the movies nowadays, and I honestly think it's his own art form. And when I first saw it, I was at first, very, very first, I just wanted to be a colorist. And then I was like, okay, I actually want to go into sound. And then I was like, No, no. And I was experimenting with these different things while I was, helping out on set and things like that in these departments. And then I was like, you know what? I think I want to be a trailer editor, mainly because of, it's you're constructing the movie in less than 2 minutes. And you're getting people excited about it. And people, when they see it, I think that's when they're at their most excitement for something. And I just wanted to generate that emotion. And then it turned out that I was actually had a skill for it or a talent for it. I was pretty good. So I was just like, okay, cool. I think this is it. This is it. I was trying to balance something that I was really, really good at and also can provide value for someone else at. So this just happened to be the best medium of all that. And yeah, I don't know. It's just fun trying to understand what the filmmaker wants and then trying to understand, his vision and then also what the audience will want and marry those things. And at first it's always like this complicated puzzle and it's confusing. But as you go along and variation after variation, you get closer and closer to it. So, and I just like figuring that out.
Yeah, and you're right. It is an art form in and of itself, and an underappreciated one, I think, because um, I think and even now, I don't think like the skill of trailer editing is valued in a lot of productions because you see some trailers these days, and they put a lot of stuff out there on the table, and so when you go into the movie, you kind of know everything that's happening, but being able to show people just enough without spoiling it, but to also get them really interested in it and invested in the movie. I agree. That is a very it's a very particular set of skills. And your trailer, it doesn't exist, definitely met that. Like I wasn't sure what to expect from it when I sat down and watched the trailer. And even after watching the trailer, my thought thinking of it was I don't really know what this movie is, but I know I want to see it.
Right, right. Yeah, that's the feeling. I wanted to give you, a hint at, what the genre was, a hint at the characters, kind of the personality, kind of like the relationship of what's going on, but you actually don't know the plot as much. You kind of, okay, maybe someone's in trouble. What is this guy? I wanted you to be excited, but at the end of a trailer, have questions. And that's kind of like, I've done about 10 trailers now for different films. And that's always kind of my goal. And it's always a fight with when you do it for a production company who's spending like $2 million on a film. They say, okay, maybe the audience doesn't know enough. We have to tell them to know more. And I'm thinking they say they want to know more, but they really don't. And and I'm like kind of arguing for it. But at the end of the day, they win because, it's whatever they want. Right. So it's.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all very well said there. So you also mentioned how when you're editing a trailer, you have to try and figure out, right? You've got the whole movie here. You also have to try and figure out what the director's vision is, and you have to kind of marry that with your own way of trying to entice the audience and all this kind of stuff. Now, I imagine doing that with your own movie adds its own level of complication to that, because even if you do know, I know this from just as a writer when I'm writing like the description for books, it's so much harder for me to actually write that book description than it is to write the actual book. And I imagine it's probably similar for a director editing their own trailers. But you had another level of complication, whereas you were making a trailer for a movie that didn't exist. So how did that planning kind of work out to know, like, okay, what scenes are we gonna film to make this trailer?
Yeah. So basically, there to make I thought it was best to do it how you would normally do it. You would come with a script, right? So in the actual scenes, the actors would actually know their motivations for everything. They would know what part of the story it was in. So it was actually part of a short script that I wrote, and then we plucked and picked out things based off of what they were doing well and what I thought could really, really work. And then from there, I was able to. It was easier for them to act it out, and then I was kind of editing in my head as well. And there are stuff that we did cut out, so it's like that I personally cut out. I was like, no, it needs to be shorter. This doesn't need to be in there. So yeah, just shooting it as if you were shooting a regular film was made it easier for everybody to understand, and me. And then once you do that, then you just edit it down, you know.
Okay. Now let's dive into the film itself and the trailer a little bit, and it's a little bit more specific. So again, the title is "It Doesn't Exist," which I love that as the title of a fake trailer. It's perfect. And so how did you come up for the idea for this particular, fake movie, and how did you go about making that happen? I know you said a little bit there where you'd written kind of like a short version of this to make the trailer, but where did the idea come from? How did that development process go?
So what I originally did was, I had thought about, the I would say like it seems to me that the way film is going is just, you only get, 2 seconds at most to hook somebody. Because before this, I was also experimenting with YouTube and making YouTube content and seeing what worked and what didn't work and things like that. And from there, I was like, okay, you only get 2 seconds to hook somebody before they leave. So I was like, okay, I gotta grab them in 2 seconds. I'm like, the best way to grab somebody in 2 seconds is shove a gun in their face. From like, I'm thinking more like, Tarantino style there. And anything else also has to be something that they're not used to seeing. And I'm just like, okay. And I thought of the, Son of Man painting by Magretti, I think the Italian artist. And that always stuck out to me because I'm like, what's behind that apple? Like, you know what I mean? What does his face actually look like? And I really like his work. I've seen a lot of his work. It deals with like reality manipulation and things like that. And then I thought of the term that was started here in Japan, uncanny, and how like, when something not human tries to pretend to be human. And that really like messes with our brains because we're trying to decipher like, okay, this person kind of looks human, but they're not. And I was kind of playing with those ideas to create the main character or the main subject for the trailer and now the film, which is this character named Pain. And I thought about, from there, I was like, okay, what's behind that mask? Maybe nothing. And I was just playing with some ideas in my head. And as I kept writing it, it kind of comes to you. You probably know as a writer, sometimes you kind of don't know until you really structure it out and plot it up. And then it just comes to you. And maybe you see something else from some wall or something. And then you get more inspired and stuff like that. And that's kind of how it like came to fruition of like creating these kind of like characters. And of course, I was inspired by some stuff in traditional Japanese film. That's kind of how it came about.
Okay, yeah, and I definitely want to talk about some of those influences as well. Now, the trailer, like you said here, it got this amazing response, and people were, they're asking when's the movie coming out. So talk a little bit about, kind of like how you reacted to that, how that compared to your expectations for this, and how you felt about like the reception of the trailer.
Yeah, I was at first I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, and then I put a website up and then I got trailer jobs from that. And I was like, great. You know what I mean? I was like, it's success. I could do this now. And then people, they kept commenting and they were commenting things like when is this going to be released? And I would always joke with them like never, like stuff like that. And then they just kept commenting. It was like, it's actually a shame it's not. I would buy this. You know what I mean? And then when people start saying that, your brain kind of like, you're like, really? Like, you know what I mean? Like I kind of made this as a, kind of like a not a joke, but I was serious when making it, but I kind of made it as off of like kind of just getting my artistic inner self out and to do this trailer thing. But the more comments that came in, the more it kind of changed my mind. And it was somewhere around like 30,000 views, I was just like, okay, fine. Yeah, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like, let's put it out there. I'm gonna make this in front. They were like, yay, right? You know what I mean? I was, and I made a post on YouTube about it. So then I started the pre-launch page, and then it's really the audience that changed my mind, because I was always thinking, like, no one's gonna fund this. Like, it can be the best idea in the world. I know how. I do have some experience working at a documentary production company in America. Like, I know, like, the idea can be great. They don't care. You know what I mean? They care about where the money's going to come from, and is it based on the previous property? Is it, is it a book attached? Is it a short story, time, place, and history? That's what they, do, because in partially rightfully so, because, they lose a lot of money in now. So it's like, I just figured it wasn't going to be done. And if it was going to be done, it was going to be done by some sort of production company and stuff. I never really thought it's like, okay, maybe this an audience of people can gather behind it and do it. So they really did change my mind.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so cool that when something like that happens. And of course, now this opens up another challenge, because now you have to go from taking this short thing and expanding it into a full-length movie. So let's talk a little bit about the movie itself. Obviously, we don't want people to spoil too much about it, so feel free to hold back as much as you want. And people should definitely go check out the Kickstarter and see the fake trailer. But what is this film about?
Yeah, so it's about a character's named Pain, and Pain is actually a parasite that takes the form of a mask that lives on this man's face, and from that he's able to control, his thoughts and actions, everything, and he's almost like the actual person itself is almost like in the sunken place, as if it's like, get out or something like that. He doesn't know, he can only see what's happening. He can't really control himself. And Pain, the actual parasite, the character, can go from person to person. When one person expires, he can go to another person. I think of it as kind of like the old school now the mask from Jim Carrey kind of idea. And basically his goal is kind of to shape the world in his own image, and he sees things that could be better subjectively to him, and he will go into these situations and change them in order to keep the world on track, is according to him. He thinks of himself as like a god, if that makes sense. And that's kind of the gif, the gif between the character and how he reacts in his world. So everybody else is just kind of reacting to him, when he shows up in these sort of situations. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned on the Kickstarter page a few different inspirations, and you mentioned like the DC Comics, originally Charlton, Vigilante, The Question. That was the first thing I thought of actually when I saw the mask on Pain. So that my mind went right to The Question as well. But also you mentioned American Psycho, and from a Japanese perspective as well, you also mentioned Audition and Perfect Blue. That definitely caught my attention because those are two of my favorite Japanese movies. And also you mentioned Christopher Nolan's Inception. So tell us a little bit more about your inspirations and kind of how you pulled, what you're pulling from these different properties.
Yeah, I like the idea of reality manipulation, things not actually being there, or if you're unsure if they are or not. And as far as the question goes, I like the idea of somebody of his kind of like his personality, and kind of his almost quirkiness to him, and that's kind of what I partially took from there. And when it comes to things like audition and things like that, everything is not what it seems. Kind of the same thing with Inception. Um, and I just like the kind of like the bending of reality um, for from those films. So like also when I think of other filmmakers like Christopher Nolan and things like that, I think they do really really well in that realm. And I kind of grew up on those films, and I always and those films are the ones that I think about the most. Like was that real? Was that a dream? Was that, you know what I mean? And I like to play in that realm. So that I definitely took that as inspiration for writing the script, and uh, I'm using it and kind of putting my own spin on it, of course.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. And just like it just the look of it too is incredible. Like, sometimes you look at, independent film trailers or something like that, and you can feel the lack of a budget on it. Your trailer does not feel like that. Like, this looks like a pristine production. The way you shot it, the way you edit it together, it's unbelievably professional, and it looks amazing. And even like the mask, people, again, go to the Kickstarter page. You have these photos and the behind the scenes stuff about creating the mask, and it was just very interesting to read about that process. And also too, you have some pretty interesting names in the cast. Like, there are some people in there, I looked them up, that they didn't really have much to their credits. But then you do have people like Yoshi Kuroiwa, who was in the Naked Director, and she was also in the Great Yokai War Guardians. Keita Arai was in City Hunter and the Tokyo Revengers movies. So how did you get the cast together for this independent project?
Yeah. What I found that's kind of maybe a little bit different here than America is they're just, as far as actors, they're just a group of people who really, they just want to do cool stuff. They just want to do fun stuff. And a lot of the work here that they do is mostly commercials, and is mostly standing there with a perfume bottle or something like that. So when you put out an idea that you're going to do this, it's going to happen. And if you want to jump on board, you can jump on the train. They tend to, it's like, okay, I'm down. This is cool. I read this. I think this is awesome. And there's a couple of Facebook groups and that you could just, with Japanese actors, you put, some formulation of script or idea there, put some idea out. And they are very active on there. They go there because their friends are there and stuff like that, and they'll read something and they'll reach out to you if they like it. And that's what I found. And once I find one actor, then one actor says, you know what, I think I know somebody that might be really interested in this, and another one finds another one. So really, all you really need is one to pull one string, and then they all, they all untie. So it's like, that's what I really like. Like, for example, like Keita, he reached out to me. He was just like, "Oh, this seems cool. I'm interested in doing this or whatever." And then from there, we had a couple meetings, and then worked his way around his schedule to do something really cool for a couple of days. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how it came together, really.
Awesome. So what was it like, the filming process? Because I'm not sure how fluent your Japanese is, but what was it like working with, because you had a mix of actors. You have some that are Japanese, obviously, some that are not, or seem more international. So what was the filming process like? Did everybody speak English? Did you speak Japanese? How did that work out? Did you have translators or anything like that on set?
Yeah. So yeah, we have Nihi, who plays Pain with the mask. Uh, he's from Europe, and then everyone else is Japanese. But since actors, they want to get as many roles as possible, and most of them, as I found out, they want to do international roles too, because Japan is Japan, but also the goal is to be worldwide. So they learn English. All of them knew English. There's one that didn't know English, but she just didn't feel comfortable speaking it. She could understand what everyone was saying perfectly. Like I could just talk to her, even with slang, and she would get it. So that's not a problem. And I find from meeting a lot of these actors, they all really know English. It's very rare that I meet an actor that knows zero English now, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's simple. So I didn't have to use anything. I didn't have to use any translators or any Japanese. I mean, my Japanese is I think it's atrocious. I mean, my friends and family think it's amazing. When I go to the convenience store, or when I'm talking with my friends or something, they think it's amazing. But I'm just like, you don't understand that this is like in four, and they don't know what that means. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're like, so.
Yeah, I've definitely heard the Nihongo Jozu phrase many times since my time here. So does that mean that the movie, is it going to be in English then, or a mix of English and Japanese?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix of English and Japanese. The main person Payne, he speaks English, and a lot of stuff he may say might be in his head too. So and all the other actors speak Japanese when it comes to themselves. When they're speaking of Payne, they speak English, and I kind of formulate that on purpose because I've noticed that the majority of people that did come for the trailer, and you can see your YouTube analytics and stuff like that, the majority of them were English speakers. So I wanted to adhere to them more, mainly because they're the ones that were championing it the most. So, you make a film for yourself, but you also make a film for the audience that are willing to champion it. So it's kind of a mix. So I would say that, it's 50-50, maybe 60-40 in some places.
So you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
All right, here we go.
New Phineas and Ferb is here.
We're back, baby.
For 104 more days.
I know what we're gonna do today.
Of summer vacation.
I am ready for summer shenanigans. Let's do it. Oh, yeah.
All right. We're gonna bust Phineas and Ferb once and for all.
Are we gonna do this again?
New inventions, shenanigans, innators, adventures, and songs.
Brand new summer vacation.
New Phineas and Ferb starts June 5th on Disney Channel and next day on Disney Plus on DisneyPlus.Disney.com.
Now, the thing on the Kickstarter mentioned that the project funded in 11 hours. Really quick turnaround. I mean, I've done a Kickstarter for a comic book and it didn't get funded at all after like a month. So getting a movie funded in 11 hours, that's amazing. So how did you get the word out about the project? Obviously you had the trailer and you had this built-in audience of people who had seen the fake trailer on YouTube. But how did you kind of expand your circle beyond that? And how did the response to it compare to your expectations for the funding?
Yeah, so besides the YouTube audience, there's also friends and family. You have it's not that much, but they're some of your biggest supporters. But they're it's about 10 of them. Other than that, it's a Reddit. Put it like how you first came aware of it. There's a couple of movie r/Japanese movie subreddits. There's J-horror, there's Japanese movies, then there's like Asian movies, and things like that. And I have been in those subreddits, so I posted my idea in those, and a lot of them seem to vibe with it. Look, out of the J-horror subreddit has like 39 to 40,000 people in there. But then I posted a trailer in there and it got over like 70,000 views and 500 shares and things like that. And then I was like, wow, that's great. You know what I mean? And that kind of helped it a lot. Other than that, I have an Instagram for it with 400 people that really vibe with it. And then I did run some advertising of just to see if I could get people to the pre-launch page, which I heard that was really important on top of that. So I went a couple $100 to that, and just to see, how many people would come. And I was getting a fair amount of people that were interested in it and in the idea. So I ran that, and just the combination of all that got me to somewhere over 800 followers on the pre-launch page. So when I launched it directly after that, everyone that was waiting for it, they got the email and they went straight there. And then after that, it's just been kind of smooth sailing. And that's kind of how, it got there.
Awesome. And so now the project has been funded. What are the next steps in getting the film made?
Yeah. So now that that's finished, once the Kickstarter ends, I'm going to see what I'm really working with, and I'm going to, I've already contacted, the main actor, Nee, and then I'm going to contact everyone else to kind of see what their schedule is like. I had told them that this was happening, but when you're an actor, your schedule is uncertain. So I kind of left a big enough window because they're really excited about it. I see on all their IMDb pages and stuff like that. They've put that on their IMDb pages, and they really love the idea of it on their Instagrams as well. So they really want to continue it, as they've told me. So I'm gonna kind of formulate their schedules, and then of course hire a first AD and get a producer on board to kind of help me with the organization of that. And then after that, then go to location scouting, stuff like that, trying to find the places that we can, of course, shoot for free that are down, you know what I mean? That want to be, maybe we show their, where they're at and stuff like that. And they let us do it for free and stuff. Cause even though it is funded, it's still a very, low budget production and things like that. And just put a lot of my time, energy, and attention on trying to keep all the money on the screen and trying to keep the quality as consistent and as high as possible. And there's tricks for that and things like that. But yeah, that would be the next step. Other than that, I might do a second round on WeFunder, because WeFunder is one of my friends. He got his project funded on WeFunder, and it's more equity crowdfunding. But he said, yours would do great on there. So we're going to test that while we're doing all the operation stuff.
Okay, cool. So what are some of the biggest challenges you kind of anticipate going forward with the full production?
Probably locations. Locations is hard because locations really make a film. When you see a film, the production like value of it is like 50% of the locations. If you see locations that are greater or very filmic and things like that, you automatically assume a higher production value. And that's what I want to keep, because that's what a lot of people liked about the other thing. So I was just like, about the trailer. So I definitely want to do that. Locations are super important. It's going to suck up a lot of the time trying to negotiate and find great places. Other than that, we have to figure out the mask, because we did use a process that was amateurish, and it was kind of Nihi was a good sport about it, but his face was irritated the whole time. So we have to find a good process for that, and he knows people in the industry, since he does stunts kind of full time, to figure that part out. So that, locations, the mask, and also just getting a cinematographer on board. So I won't have to be sweating doing everything. You know what I mean? Like that's we had a cinematographer that we used for some of the stuff we did before in the trailer, but is he going to be available? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like he's also does commercials and stuff full time. And this would be like a, passion project for him as well. So those are the challenges, I think.
Yeah, locations are it's one of those things that it can it can really make or break a movie, and it's something that is you don't really think about it a lot as a viewer, but when you get on the other side of the camera, you realize just how important that side of it is and how difficult it can be to find that stuff. I just know from my own, student film experiences back when I was in university, like trying to find the right way to shoot, trying to find places where you can shoot things and trying to turn like a garage into a warehouse and like trying to use
Right.
and so yeah, I feel you on all that stuff. Now it's outside from the cast, and I wasn't aware that you had experiences on other film sets too. So maybe that kind of answers this question a little bit. But have you heard from anyone else in the Japanese film industry about the project? Any sort of like from like maybe other directors who have maybe seen the trailer or heard about this from any of the cast members or producers, studios, distributors, anything like that?
No, I haven't. And I didn't really expect to really. It's kind of different, maybe being a foreigner too. But it is what it is. I'm excited for what and feel blessed for what I currently have with everything. So I'm okay with that. But no, I reached out to somebody. He's a distributor here, and he is a foreigner. He owns Third Window Films, and he distributes Japanese films to other countries from here. And we had a nice hour 2 hour conversation about everything that was happening. He gave me some really cool and grateful advice on what to do moving forward and things like that. Which is really cool. But other than him, no, zero. But that's fine. I think I just continue doing what I'm doing now, and maybe if it gets big enough, maybe somebody would, maybe.
Okay, very cool. So this since this is being made in Japan, is there anything you think about it as terms of like specific themes specific to life in Japan, or maybe your experiences even as a foreigner in Japan? Any themes like that are kind of connected to this film that you're working with, or no?
Yeah, there is some. There is some. Maybe I want to keep that for the film, but yeah, I definitely want to add that. I mean, I do have 6 years experience here, maybe not as much as you, but I've been to the city and I've lived in kind of the country per se, and I kind of see some of the differences, kind of see some of the um, how people experience life here, and that is definitely one of the some of the driving factors for some of the characters and things like that. So it's definitely not okay, I'm a Westerner coming in and I'm making a Western film here. I'm definitely bringing some of that because that's part of who I am, but it's definitely mixed with a lot of the Japanese influences and stuff for the character specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's always interesting when you see, because there aren't a whole lot of international directors working in the Japanese film industry, but I think of something like Sang-il Lee, who directed the Unforgiven remake, and how his perspective as someone from a Korean background really gave that movie a really kind of unique feel to it, and the way he addressed some of the themes in there was unique in a way that if it was directed by, say, Takashi Miike or someone like that, it probably wouldn't have those same types of ideas. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you bring from your own experiences into this as well. And have you finished the full screenplay for the full production?
Yeah, I'm right at the end. So it's like, because right after that, it was about a month, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll do this. So then I started writing, and then I was working on the Kickstarter at the same time, because I was thinking, like, what if I write this whole thing and no one cares? You know what I mean? So I was kind of writing very slow. And just a quick, history on that. I did run a website called freshmanscreenplay.com. I don't think it's no longer active, but at the height, it had like 40,000 visitors a month. And I was teaching myself how to write screenplays and giving the advice I had on there. And I got to meet, with two or three screenwriters, one from UK, one from California and stuff like that. And they really helped mentor me. And I kind of used that experience to write my screenplay. So I started with that in mind. I started on a corkboard, taking, beat by beat, scene by scene. And then once I have all that, I pretty much say, okay, it's finished. I just need to write it out. And during the writing out process, that's when it gets fun, because then, you get into the second act or third act or something like that. And one of the characters might say something you didn't think they were going to say. And that's when they start taking over. And then that's when you get the fun stuff. So that's kind of the part I'm on right now. And I'm finishing up the third act currently.
Awesome. So what are your expectations for this reception of the film when it comes out? How do you think it'll be received, in Japan and abroad?
That's a good question. I have no idea, because I have no idea. Maybe it seems to me though, either people are really gonna like it or they're really gonna hate it. There's no in between. No one's gonna be like, it's okay. I wouldn't want somebody to see it and just be like, that's okay. I would rather you have an extreme reaction to it. So I think definitely maybe the people abroad would like it way more than here. Maybe that's what I'm thinking, just because of the amount of people that I see from the trailer on YouTube and in the Kickstarter that actually came here and supported it. But maybe I'm unsure. I'm really unsure.
Okay. And one of the things I found out, doing this show and, looking at these Japanese movies, is that the Japanese film industry has a frenetic pace that you don't really see like in American film production. So you have, it's not like, Quentin Tarantino, who can make a movie every 5 years or something, then just fuck off for a while. But it's one of those things where it's like you see like Takashi Miike or these other guys where they're just constantly churning out they're constantly working on projects. They finish one, they move on right to the next one. You have to be a working director here. So with all that in mind, have you started thinking about any projects or anything that you might do after you're done with It Doesn't Exist?
Yeah, I have, because, I have, 3 scripts I already wrote. And I also have, I was thinking about this and I was like, okay, if this takes off in the way I want it to, how can I expand on this world as opposed to making this one-off? Because I think when people really like something, you can then expand the world, play in that world. And I don't necessarily maybe see a lot of that here. It always seems like this is by itself. Now it's a totally different story, even though it has the same actors, right? But I would want to expand it. Maybe not like It Doesn't Exist, It Doesn't Exist 2, nothing like that, but maybe just taking a couple of the characters or something like that and making a story that's just as interesting but adjacent. And I actually came up with one recently, and that's the one I'm going to be writing right after this one. And I think it's going to seem like it's not in the world, but it will be. So I'm really excited for that.
Okay. So is there anything else that we haven't covered? Anything else you want people to know about this film? Anything else you want to say to anyone who's listening, who might be thinking of backing or is already, sold and they're like, I'm definitely going to back this?
Basically, I'm not super, experienced filmmaker or anything. I'm just person who's trying to do something. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. A couple months ago, I had an English teaching job. Now this is everything to me. So I'm kind of taking a chance, and I think, you know, from what I hear in a lot of my messages from my current backers, that's what they like the idea, but then when they hear that, they're just like, okay, this guy is just like me, you know what I mean? in that way, you know, trying to take a chance. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'm gonna give it my best attempt, and hopefully it does.
Well, it looks amazing, and I really hope it does work out for you, and hopefully we can have you hopefully when it comes out, we can have you come back and maybe we can talk about the movie and kind of delve into some of the themes and the story and the characters when that happens.
Yeah, awesome.
But, you know, thanks so much for doing this interview. Again, the film is called It Doesn't Exist. It is on Kickstarter, and we will have a link to that Kickstarter in the show notes. So please check it out. Please go and look at the original trailer and show some support. And the director here, again, Katie Wilson, director, writer. Thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great having you on. It was great having this discussion, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this project shakes out.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. So I really appreciate you reaching out. And this was actually really fun. This is the first interview I've ever done ever. So,
well, you did really well. So hopefully it's not the last. But that does it for this special bonus episode of Japan on Film. JapanOnFilm.com is the website. And as always, we are a Film Stories podcast. So please check out other stuff in the Film Stories network. And also, if you want to follow us, Japan on Film on all the social networks, JapanOnFilm.com is the Blue Sky handle. And I forgot to ask, Katie, do you have any social media that you'd like to direct people to?
Yeah, they could just go to at Free Recess on Instagram, FREE Recess, like what you used to do when you were a kid. And that's kind of the production handle I'm going under. Other than that, there's my personal one, which is at KD Wilson 1991. And that's it.
Okay, so we'll have links to those as well in the show notes. Check all that out. Thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you next time. The Japan on Film podcast is produced by me, Perry Constantine, in conjunction with the Film Stories Podcast Network. Visit JapanOnFilm.com for show notes, episodes, and information about being a guest yourself. You can also reach out to me on the website's contact form if you have questions or comments about Japanese movies or the show itself. The show is at Japan on Film on Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram, so please be sure to follow us. If you'd like to support the show, you can donate on JapanOnFilm.com, purchase from our advertisers, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join the Film Stories Podcast Network Discord from the link in the show notes to connect with me and many other cinema fans and podcasters.